Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Thanks for tuning in today. We will be discussing the hidden costs of dealing with toxic relationships. So don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for all new videos. So I'm pretty sure everyone has dealt with toxic relationships, whether it's friendship, whether it's a person you're dating or a family member. I feel like throughout life, everyone is going to encounter a toxic relationship. Now, how long that relationship lasts does determine on who you are and your mindset. And I found out through my journey that my mindset wasn't as strong as I thought it was. And I had a lot of toxic people around me. And I really had to open my eyes when I found myself in a predicament that I never would see myself in. And I never thought like this would be me. And it took me a while to really grasp what was really going on during that time. And when I finally came into acceptance and I had to really sit down and start thinking, okay, how did I get here? And then I start unpacking just so much, like, how did this start? Where did this lead? Who did this? Who said this? And once I start asking these questions to myself, things just started unloading. I started really understanding a lot. And then as I got more into my Bible and just seeking God's voice, I also had revelation and like a lot of just signs. And I don't really know how to explain those kind of things right now, and I'm not even going to go into it because sometimes I feel like I sound like I'm insane. So we're going to move past that, but we're going to get to understanding why there's such a big cost to having a toxic person in your life. And I learned that even through my experience with the relationships that I had dealt with, when I decided to really break down and go into solitude and start paying attention to each person that I had in my life, I found myself having conversations with these people one by one. And as I had these conversations, I started to realize where my mindset was and where theirs was, and that how we were not meeting. And since we weren't meeting, I had to part ways. And some of that was really hard for me. And it took a long time to really understand what that person really was doing in my life and how it really affected me mentally and honestly my whole life, like, and how I was basically moving along in life. How was I elevating? And I wasn't. I was like at a plateau, like a stop. And then I literally hit the bottom. And then and when I hit that bottom, it was like, whoa, like, like I know it was a stop, but how did I get here? And it just got worse and worse. And I think that once I hit that bottom and opened my eyes, I started climbing. And the reason why I started climbing is because I started self-reflecting, because I think that it really starts within you. Because if you're around a lot of toxic people, 9 times out of 10, you're most likely toxic too. You have toxic traits. It's something that you're gravitating to that's toxic. Maybe it's trauma. Maybe it's you're used to toxic people. That's how you were raised. So then when you get into life, you're going to surround yourself with toxic people because you don't know what non-toxic people look like. So that was kind of like my situation. And I also surrounded myself with a lot of toxic people. And I also had a lot of toxic traits because, like I said, if you grow up in a scenario where a lot of what you grew up is toxic and that's what you're raised in and that's how you're raised, then you're going to become that. So you have to learn how to break out of that cycle. You have to learn how to I honestly learned by seeking God's voice. Like I said, I seek God, and that's who gave me revelation and clarity, and that's who has been teaching me. And that's how I have came up out of that toxic lifestyle, the way that I lived, the things that I did, just period. People I surrounded myself with, just all that, it was just nonsense. And I'm going to get into some of the reasons why that these toxic relationships can have such a hidden cost to you, and it really can affect your elevation and prosperity within life. So number 1 will be wasted time. I feel like when you are involved with someone toxic and you have something on a calling on your life, a purpose on your life, that can hinder you from achieving that. I found myself literally dropping out of school. I found myself losing vehicles, losing homes. I found myself with court cases. This is the type of things I dealt with when I was dealing with toxic people. And I'm going to be very transparent. I'm not going to get into the story of how I lost all those things along the route. But this is what happens when you're dealing with toxic people. You deal with so many toxic people that your time become wasted to where you just start losing stuff. Like you just start looking up like what happened? Like, and that's literally how I looked up. And when I tell you that I'm laughing at this because honestly, this in the past, it was like years ago, but it's still like to me to come forward with that truth and just realize like I literally looked up with nothing, like nothing to show for it. I had all this type of education and all this type of upbringing to just come to this type of situation. And I know that like my upbringing probably wasn't like the best, but I definitely had education. I definitely was clothed and fed. I definitely was taken care of and was put in the best predicaments that I could get into to better myself. And I think that for me to land where I landed, I had to really reflect on what was transpiring through those parts. And I had to get deep dive into like childhood trauma that I had brought along with me throughout my journey of adulthood, which is why I ended up with around toxic people, because I had a toxic, traumatic childhood. And as coming up in that type of situation, you surround yourself around what you know. So in that type of scenario, I wasted a lot of time. So I found myself with years of just nothing to show for it. And when I found that out, it really depressed me for a while. And I went through a stage of a good year of literally depressed and just lost, like just at a awe of like not knowing like how like, and I didn't, it just, no matter who I talked to, couldn't even open up. Like I even went to therapists, and I'm gonna lie, like I tried to find out like why, and they couldn't tell me anything. And I literally just somebody kept putting the Bible in my face, like literally constantly. I just seen the Bible. Everybody that I was bunking with when I was incarcerated was like Bible people. They were preaching and praying. I'm like, why do I keep getting around these people? And honestly, I was literally at the bottom. So I was like not believing in nothing. I was like, man, forget that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because like I'm literally in prison. Like I just didn't feel like thinking about that. I was just so at an awe. And when I started like really getting into the Bible, something just kept calling me. And then one night, like I said in the previous video, I prayed, and then I just started getting people coming to me with Bibles, books, stories, and like just like so much information was coming to me, and it was just like a load of information. And I just started applying it. Like, okay, clearly I would take in the information and start reflecting on what was said to me. Like, okay, this person said this. Well, I definitely don't need to do that. So it's just like that kind of breaking down what's being brought to you, and what's there, what's not. And when I started really unpacking all that, I started learning I was wasting a lot of time. And I wasted a lot of time. And that was one of the hidden costs to toxic relationships, time wasted too, which is one that I've struggled with honestly all my life, being emotionally unavailable. I was never a person that I could sit around and talk about feelings. I was never a person that was, into just talking about feelings. Like I just really wasn't in tune with my feelings. I really didn't like to get into that part. I didn't like people asking too many questions. I just really was uncomfortable. And I think that because I didn't spend a lot of time knowing my own emotions and my own feelings, I didn't want to get into that part because like I said, I had a lot of pain. And I felt like every time I got into that, it was just too much to bear. And I honestly would just stop. So that also led into the drinking, because that was how I felt like I coped with that. But making myself unemotionally unavailable really brought me to a lot of emotionally unavailable people, because we connected, because we were not emotionally available. So I didn't ever ask them a lot of questions. I never really wanted to dive into what was going on with them, because I didn't want them to dive into me. So I left it blank. Like, okay, all right. And like, if we did dive in, I only gave him the bare minimum. I never dived into like childhood, who you know. Like, I literally just left it as like my parents is dead. There's nothing else to talk about. Like, because I didn't want to talk about that. And I left all the childhood memories far back. And I didn't want to really think about those memories. And so I was very emotionally unavailable, like completely. And I really didn't mind people who were emotionally unavailable. So I sometimes purposely picked people who were emotionally unavailable because it was a purpose behind what I was doing with that person who was emotionally unavailable. And it was benefiting me. And then when it started to hinder me, then I would have a disregard to them, like bye, like, and move on to the next. So I had a really bad, like I said, I hurt a lot of people's feelings, and so I didn't have the best relationships with some people. So I had to learn that being unemotionally available hurts people, and I never really realized that, but hurt people. So that's pretty much how that goes. This is a major one. Peace is gone. When I say I dealt with some toxic people that literally took away my peace, they took away my peace. And what I mean by my peace, I mean like I was out of character with these people. Like, I was doing things that I never would do. I was physically violent with a lot of people because of the things that they were trying to do to me. And I really stepped out of a person that I never wanted to be. And when I would do those things, I would try to block it. Like, okay, I forgot all about that. But then people will start to remind me, because then I started gathering names that were not so nice. Dang, yeah. I was not, like I said, my peace was gone. People were doing a lot of things to me, taking my kindness for weakness. And then eventually, as my kindness started to grow, like bitterness, then I started to become very mean. And I really didn't care about it. I really didn't have time to worry about that because I was surviving. I do what I had to do. I didn't have time to be worried about people's feelings. I didn't really care about what they were thinking. If it wasn't revolved around what I had going on and what I needed to do, it was like right out my head. I just didn't care. And I had to come out of that because I got like that from not having peace. So when you're dealing with toxic people and they're not bringing you peace, it starts to reflect on your character. And that's what I'm trying to bring out to you. And when you're not having peace and you're not content and within yourself, you're always strained. Someone's always bringing the worst out of you. Someone's always talking to you bad. Someone's always doing something that's disturbing your peace within your soul. Then you start to become a different character because you don't know how to get the peace back. And the only way you think to get the peace back is to become out of character. So I had to learn that those toxic people were bringing out the worst in me. And I'm not trying to have the worst brought out of me. I'm trying to change the worst in me and have people bring out the best in me, emphasize that in me. So if I'm around somebody who's always getting me out of character, I definitely know they're toxic, and I definitely back away from that because, like I said, I don't have like the best temper, and I've been in a lot of scenarios where I will get out of character with people and it will not be a pretty sight. So we definitely don't do toxic people anymore because I told myself, and it's a vow just to myself and to God, that I will never do those things that I did to people that I did before. And that's a vow that I have with him, that I will never go around hurting people's hearts anymore. And I just won't do those things. So I push away people who bring that side out. And it's just period, flat out. Toxic people reframe your mindset. And I had to realize that your mindset gets completely reframed because you stop trusting people. And that's really where I led to, is just not trusting nobody. I literally trusted nobody. I had people around me I did not even trust. Like, literally, I can tell you every person that ever been around me in my life I never trusted, because I've never given people the room to get my trust. I've never believed they were trustworthy. Like, one thing that would rub me wrong, cut. I'm just not even dealing with it. I don't even want to tolerate it. I don't want to hear about it. I don't care what your side is. And that kind of brought me to a lot of like, just, I didn't have a lot of friends because I didn't really trust people. I had a lot of people do a lot of terrible things that broke my trust barrier down, like just broke it down to where just a wall came up. And when that happened, I just never put the wall down. I never wanted to, because I never wanted to feel the pain that I felt before again. And I felt like the only way to stop that pain was to put that wall up, to just no one comes in, no one's trustworthy, no one's knowing nothing. I'm not ever telling secrets. They're not going to know the deep as me. I'm not going to give them all that. They're going to give the bare minimum. And that's how I always been. And I found that that's why a lot of my relationships were toxic, and why I always got the bare minimum from others, because I gave them the bare minimum, because I didn't trust. And I started to understand that when you're going through this self-healing journey and you're going through this path with God, and you start to reflect on why these relationships were coming to you like a magnet. And it was because you were projecting that. And I never knew I was projecting that. I thought that was just people just coming to me. Like, what is this, And that was what I was projecting, so that was gravitating toward me. And I realized now that since my mindset is not like that, and I don't have that like energy, I don't get those weird people coming to me no more. Like, I don't get people who got a whole bunch of problems coming to me. Like, I don't have that no more. Like, something about my energy just shows like, I'm not dealing with it. Like, I guess in the way I talk, like I can even notice it like with people that I used to know that I now talk to, that our conversation has definitely ceased, because we are on two different talking conversations. And my mindset is not stuck on that type of, negative, replay. You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly what most people's mindsets are on, is a negative replay. And since it's on this negative replay, and it's always the same replay over and over and over, they don't have nothing to elevate the mind. So they're not stimulating me anymore. So I learned that the hidden cost with toxic relationships is what? Reframing how you see the world, reframing how you see your mind, reframing how you see yourself, and just reframing, period. And it brings you to not trust. And not having trust is going to make your relationships hard, because then it's going to cause a lot of conflict, a lot of questions and barriers that you won't be able to break down if you can't trust. So that's what I learned from toxic people. So number 5, this is a list of 7, by the way. Number 5 is basically personal growth is stagnated, hindered, not moving. So you will find yourself doing the same thing that you've been doing for the past 6 years. You'll find yourself in the same mindset you were the past 6 years. You'll find yourself someone talking about something you don't even know nothing about, because you're so stuck back 6 years ago. And I was like that, I was, way off some years, and I had to really elevate. I had to read. I had to, research, study, talk to people who were doing something different. And that's how I basically started to restructure and grow myself. And then I started learning what I was doing, that the people that I was hanging out with that were not doing that for themselves did not match with me, because we had nothing to talk about. It was like they were, we're just flying past each other, because I'm over here reading and learning this different stuff, and then you're still stuck on that same plane. Like nothing has changed. You talking the same, you doing the same thing, you laughing about the same stuff. There's nothing changed. You listen to the same music. You never even tried to step out and learn another language, learn another study. You don't have a dream, a goal. You haven't thought about a plan in 5 years. You just out here traveling. And I just found like people like that was not meshing with me. And like people who were just like in a drought, like just negative, was not meshing with me. Or people who was throwing shade was not meshing with me. And even though I never made a comment that I knew like these people are gonna get cut off, I just did it silently with love, because at the end of the day, it's nothing against you, but it's about me. And I started realizing that this is my life. I'm dying alone. I'm in it alone. I have to have something to do with my life. I have to have something to show. And that's for me. And I want a legacy. And I want to show my kids something different than what I was shown. So if I want to do that, I got to be different. I have to know that the people that I had are gone. I have to know that the people that, don't want to elevate with me, don't have no sense of purpose or nothing, can't go with me. I have to know those things. So when I learned that, and I learned that that's the hidden cost of a toxic relationship, is losing that, I was willing to cut it off. Another one is spiritual connection. Now that I've gotten so close with God and learning Jesus Christ and just learning everything it is to know about what I need to do when it comes to living my life through God, I don't want one in my life that's not believing the same thing I'm believing. And what I mean by that is I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in oneness. I believe in God. I believe there's only one God. And when it comes to that, I need the person that's around me believing that exact same thing, whether it's friends or a mate or a family member. And if I have family members that don't, then, all love, but we would definitely be distant. Because I have to keep myself on a spiritual path. And if I get anywhere off that spiritual path, then that person that was once back when I elevated from can easily slide up. And people don't realize that when you're on a path of a spiritual journey and you're with Jesus and you're trying to really elevate yourself and really be better, you have to really focus on staying close to God. That means surrounding yourself with godly things, doing things that revolve in God. That means being a part of a church. That means in online church. I'm on an online church right now, and I study every day. I read the Bible. I try to do something that regards to God. Worship, listen to music, talk to people, talk about God. Everything I want is to be in that spiritual godliness. And I want people around me who want that too. And if they don't want that, then it's not going to work for me. And I'm going to know off topic. I'm going to know off back because I'm going to talk about God. And if I feel like you have a problem with God, you're making jokes, it's weird, you're having a weird conversation, you're really not serious about what I'm talking about, I'm going to cut you. I'm not going to even talk about it because I don't have time for that. So that's how I know now that toxic people will hinder your spiritual growth and they'll take you away from God and you will lose your purpose. You will lose who you are. You will lose so much and you will find yourself in the predicament I was, just deteriorating from there. And that's how I know it's true because I've experienced it and I understand it. So now that I know that, nothing's going to stop me from keeping my relationship with God and keeping my relationship with Jesus Christ. No one's going to stop me from living the best way I can through God and through Jesus by his word. And I don't want no one around me who's not going to believe in that either for themselves and for me. So anyway, we're going to move on to the next one, which is the last one, losing yourself. So this one I'm really big on. This is one that really happened to me, losing myself. Basically, I lost myself. I didn't know who I was anymore. I had came up with a whole new identity. I was doing things that I never thought I would ever do. That was never a part of my lifestyle. I literally never grew up like that, but it ended up happening. And I think that it was because, like I said, the toxic people I was surrounding myself with was encouraging that. That was the lifestyle that they were in. That was the lifestyle I threw myself in. So that's what I knew. And then I have to take in the fact that I also was raised a little bit up into that lifestyle. So when I got lost up in there and I lost myself because I always told myself as a kid, like, I'm going to move a different way. Something in my mind was always telling me I'm going to be doing something different. I'm not going to be moving that way. But somehow, like I said, I lost my spiritual connection to God and I just wandered and I was a wandering woman. So what happens with wandering women? I did a lot of experience with sexual immorality, lots. And so when it comes to that type of scenario, I had to reel back in because I had lost myself completely within just sex and drugs and just living out there in the streets, in the life, just everywhere. And I didn't have no grounding. I was literally gone. I was always on a flight, always at somebody's park. I was always somewhere, okay? And I was never in a home. So I had to really reel in. That's why I said there was so much hidden cost with dealing with toxic people, because toxic people make you think that what you're doing is right. They make you think that what you're living like is right. And they don't give you no accountability. They don't tell you you're wrong. And when you fail, they gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, literally, when you fail, they're gone. Like, gone. And then I tell you gone, I mean gone. I've had so many excuses for why people disappear out of my life that I let them stay gone. Like, they'll come back and say whatever they want to say, and I let them say, I let them speak their piece. I let them think that they got through it, but at the end of the day, cut. I don't even have a conversation about it no more. Like, I'm not going to text you about it, which you did wrong. You're going to feel it because you're going to feel that energy is shifted. Like, I'm all the way over here. You can't even fly this way unless your mind elevate, because where you at, we're not doing it. And that's pretty much what happened. Was I lost myself completely. And when I lost myself is how I woke up to where I was like, what happened? And not a lot of people take my route. I'm not saying that my route is by everyone, but like that's my story. That's really you don't know my whole story, but that's pretty much the gist of the hidden cost that I suffered from having toxic people around my life. And these are the 7 things that I think happens. It's like wasted time, making yourself emotionally unavailable, your peace is gone, you reframe how you see the world, which means you guard your heart. You don't trust no one. And then your personal growth just stops. You don't have no elevation of a dream, an aspiration, nothing. You're spiritually disconnected. So whatever you pray to, you're not praying to them anymore. You're often doing something else. Me, I lost my connection to God. And then losing yourself, losing your whole identity, becoming a whole new person. Like literally when I look back on the person that I was, I don't know who that was. And sometimes I don't even want to look back there. Like, let her stay back there. And I don't want to see it. And I had to learn how to see it and, reel it in. But that's not something that I want to go back and see every day. And it was really a shameful time for me. And I was shamed about it for a long time. I still am. But overcoming these things. And so, like I said, everything is a growth process. I just wanted to share with you the hidden costs of dealing with toxic people and how it can really affect your life moving forward. So don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for all new videos. And you guys have a blessed day.